All right, today I want to give you three keys to walking your dog on a loose leash. Three ways to get your dog to stop pulling on a leash. You need these three things. You can start walking your dog today without pulling. Number one is have the correct leash length. You're not going to want to have any more than a 6 foot long leash. For a bigger dog, you might even want a short one, and you're going to want to grip up on it. Hold it close. Don't give the dog a long lead. So you're going to have the correct leash is number one. Number two, you got to have the right collar. The right collar is the most important thing. The right collar is the place where we communicate with our dog what we want. The dog does not understand your words. Your dog understands pressure. We're going to use a principle called pressure on, pressure off with the right collar. Now, there's a lot of collars out there. A lot of them you don't want to use. Number one, you don't want to use the dog's regular collar unless he's not a puller. Regular collars are great to hold their tag. They're great to walk them too if they're not a puller, which is fine. But if your dog's pulling, it's going to put pressure right there on his trachea and he's going to choke against it. So you don't want to use that. Number two, you don't want to use a harness. Don't use a harness. All the harness is going to do is make your dog want to pull more. If you want to have a sled dog, yes, use these. I have a husky. My husky loves to pull. When I want my husky to pull, this is what I use. This is actually a sledding dog harness to help them pull because they like to. It's going to put pressure right here, which makes their instinct to pull, especially if you have a working breed dog, the bigger breed dog. We're not going to use that. Here's what we are going to use, and this is the power steering of collars. The power steering of collars, this is called the pinch collar. The pinch collar works by putting pressure all the way around the dog's neck at the same time. So it does not just get one point on the trachea, it gives that. Now, it may look like a 13th century torture device, but it is not. These points are not sharp. These are very dull edges, and they just apply even pressure all the way around. Now you have to use it right. You don't need to be jerking the dog like that. All it takes is a little pressure, and again, we're going to do pressure on, pressure off. It's a principle. Pressure on, pressure off. When the dog is pulling, pressure goes on. When the dog's not pulling, pressure goes off. That's called negative reinforcement. Negative does not mean bad, it means taking something away. Reinforcement is something good, something the dog wants. The dog wants to walk like this. And I'll show you on my dog here in just a minute. So that's the second principle. And the third principle you have to use is correction. And a lot of people don't want to use correction in today's positive only environment, not only with dogs, but with children and everything. Correction is sometimes looked as a bad thing. It's not. Correction is how we learn. It's how we learn. The scientific principle is if you want a behavior to increase, you reward it. If you want a behavior to decrease, you punish it. And what you want to happen, and punishment means correction, does not mean harming the dog. You're giving a correction, something it doesn't like. And that's what this does. It gives a correction when it pulls tight, but then it gives a reinforcement, a reward when it releases. The reward is no pressure on the neck. The reward is being able to walk freely. And that's what we're going to look at. Now take a look here at my dog Coco. I've got my dog Coco here. Here's Coco. Coco is sporting a pinch collar for small dogs. This one's for small dog, pinch collar. I put it on inside out to put it on her first so it doesn't poke her in the eye or anything, then just flip it around. Now it's on her, there's no pressure. She can't even feel it. Now, what we'll use with the dog when we're walking is pressure on when she's pulling, pressure off when she's not. So the dog starts to pull, and the great thing about these collars is they are self-reinforcing. The dog starts to pull without you even noticing it, it will automatically pull tight and put the pressure on. And then when she is walking by your side, when she's walking appropriately, there'll be no pressure on, thus the reward. That's how we do it. Pressure on, pressure off. So remember, three things. Number one, you need a 6 foot leash. No more. And you don't have to give your dog that whole leash. You may need to hold it like this. Let's take a look at that. All right, so when walking your dog, you can hold your leash like this. The right hand here and left hand here. Don't let the dog go any further. You got about 3 feet right there. You can communicate with your dog. Remember, your leash and your collar together form a communication chain from the dog to you. This is how you're going to communicate with your dog. So you've got to have the right leash length. Number 2, you got to have that right collar, a collar that's going to communicate effectively to the dog. And number 3, you have to use correction, and you have to use reinforcement. Correction and reinforcement together are the scientific principles that makes this possible. All right, so we've got the collar on Juno here. As you can see, it's not tight on her. You can put my hand in there like that. Juno's perfectly happy. Juno, sit. And to help the dog sit, you can just pull back, sit. Good girl. All right, so there's Juno. She's got that on. And let's take her for a little walk and see what we can do. And again, you want to attach the collar. Just like that. So we have the leash. Now, when I pull up on the leash, it will tighten all the way around. And you can see Juno knows even that just means to sit. So let's take Juno for a walk and see what she might do. So as the dog starts to walk ahead of me, I just give a little pull and she stops. Come. If I want her to keep coming, I give it just a little tug. And what you want to do is just a little kind of a tap, tap, tap. Just heel. And if you start adding the heel command, they'll learn to heel. Now if I go the other way, heel, come, come. And she walks along. So I want her to come back. I just pull on the leash. Juno, sit. Okay. Now this is what we put pressure on, pressure off. So I go, Juno, come. If I go stop, sit, I put pressure on. As soon as she sits, we're going to put the pressure off. Come. Juno, come. Juno, sit. Now, Juno's trained already. Juno knows this. But when you have a dog that's pulling hard, pulling tough, all you have to do is use that pressure on, pressure off. The dog will quickly learn. Juno knows. Okay? Just as soon as it does. Now, you don't see there's no pain in the dog. It's not hurting the dog. It's not doing any of that. You can see right there. Come over here. Come over into the shade a little bit. Maybe you can see this a little better. Let's see if I pull up and down.